Okay, event recording is in process. Fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Missing maybe about 7 people, but that's okay. They can catch up. So once again, there is a link in the chat. And sometimes if you join later, then the links in chat don't show up for you. So I've linked it several times, but it's the same link. There's a link in chat that goes to a Google site that you should see on your screen right now that I'm sharing with you. Everybody in education loves a good acronym, so we are going to talk about the SAMR model, SAMR, substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition, and I will explain what all those things mean as we go. This is a presentation more geared for I wish I had more time to be able to look specifically into pieces of technology or applications in technology that we could really look at examples and you would have time to play around. But really, I'm going to give websites and applications and things that you might want to use and names of things that you might want to use and just kind of go through what this new buzzword is or this new buzz acronym is and really just touch the surface of some things. If they gave me a 2-hour session, that would have been awesome. And I could have gone a little bit farther into giving you examples. But really, I'm going to do what I can in hopefully less than 50 minutes and give you all the stuff that I think as teachers we could all find useful. So I'm going to hope that you find something out of this that you can use today at least. Okay, so in this website, I have the presentation that I'm going to use today. I have some links that you guys are going to use. And then there is a tab up in the top right that says extras. And if you go to extras, I just threw in some things that might be useful to you to look at after the presentation. So I have some additional resources, links to articles regarding what this SAMR model actually is. I'm going to talk about hexagonal thinking. And I also gave you a link to Canva, which is not Canvas, our LMS, but Canva for educators. And you can sign up and get a premium account for free for educators. So I gave you the link to that. And if you don't know what Canva is, or if you haven't been using it, you can actually have a classroom. You can assign things to students using it when you get the premium account. So, and you get it for free if you fill out their little stuff. So I also have some blogs and podcasts that these are people using technology in cool ways. And I love these particular podcasts or blogs that I have linked for you. So those are just some things I personally recommend. And bookmark this site. This is a website, so you don't have to download anything here. You don't have to save anything to your Google Drive. You don't have to have any sort of documents living out there. All of this is contained in this site for you. You can always go back to it. The Canva link doesn't work. Canva for educators. Page is not found. I'm wondering, I will look into this because I'm wondering if they're not going to do it this year, if they did it during the COVID year. And let me look into that. I am so sorry. Gave you something that no longer exists. I will look into if they're not doing a premium account anymore. Thanks, Abby. Okay, so what is this SAMR thing? Well, first of all, our meeting norms: be present, be respectful, share. Please talk to me in the chat. I can unmute you as a group. I could unmute all of you and then we could have a chat. I really wanted this to be in person because I was going to have you guys talk to your table groups or the person sitting next to you, and we were going to have conversations and share, and that didn't happen. So we do what we can and we use technology in the ways that it makes most sense. So virtual makes the most sense for this. But throughout this, I'm going to ask you guys to share some things. If you are somebody who's willing to share more, like I'm going to have you guys just putting quick things up, but I may ask if you would share more. And if you're willing to do that, I can unmute you and you can have a little bit more of of the floor. So who am I? I'm Sherry Stryhall. I work at Fort Zumwalt North as an English teacher, and these are all the other things. I've traveled a lot. I've been in several different schools, specifically middle and high. And yeah, I came back to the Missouri area about 4 years ago. And so this is my 4th year in the Fort Zumwalt School District, but this is my 15th year altogether. And this year I am an agent of SHIELD. So if you have in your building had the person who is now your instructional technology person for your building introduce themselves, that is what I am for Fort Zumwalt North. So I am the super helpful instructional ed tech leader and designer, SHIELD. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. And what is SAMR then? So SAMR is this powerful model for understanding good tech integration. What I want to say is, however you're using tech right now, you're doing a great job. Like, don't compare yourself to the teacher across the hall who has all the tech things and is doing all the stuff that you don't know how to do yet. You're okay. You're fine. Everybody's doing fine. We got Canvas at a really inopportune time. And if you have not gotten into all of the things that it can do just yet, that's okay. You're doing great. Teach what you know and learn a little bit each day. Just something small, how to do one more thing every day. But if you're not, don't compare yourself to the person down the hall who's got all the tech things going on. Find your SHIELD person, go make contact with them, have them teach you just one new thing this year, and then you're great. So I don't want anybody to think that this presentation is like, you have to be using tech all the time, because I'm going to tell you that you don't have to live at the top parts of this model, or that there are even top parts of this model. Okay. So what I like about this definition is that it says picking the right strategy or strategies for the lesson at hand. So if I had more time, we would talk about different strategies and different tech pieces that specifically worked for your lessons. So I was going to have you guys work in table groups and like talk about these types of technology pieces that you use in your departments and that you use in your specific curricular area, but we're going to try to do that sort of in a digital way here. Okay, so if your entire instructional approach consists of digitizing your resources without enhancing them, so taking that document and then just turning it over into a Google Doc, I know the answer to this is that we went virtual and COVID and all the crazy things. If we took that out of the equation, if we took the last 2 years and said, okay, we had to, those are things we had to do and turn things into technology because of quarantine and because of this and that and whatever. Those are the things we had to do with technology. But start thinking about, what do you want to do? What do you want technology to do for you? That we've had to put so many resources out there online for kids because they need them when they're not physically in the classroom. But moving forward, what do you want to do with technology? What do you want your lessons to look like? How do you want your students accessing technology? And why are you using it in the first place? And the answer usually is, well, because kids have Chromebooks, because that's where everything is going. Okay, it is. That's where the world is headed. But what do you want to do with it in your classroom? Because you're the master of your craft. So what do you want technology to look like? Okay. If we had time, I would show you, this is the guy who developed the model. It was back in 2010, so this is not like a brand new, all of a sudden thing that came out. So my big bullet point here is, you do not have to live at the top of the SAMR model. There is no top of the SAMR model. There is no top or bottom or ladder or climbing, or you are not expected to live in somewhere that's higher level technology than anything else. Like, no one's expecting anything like that. The point is to select the best tool. And so this whole presentation is addressing tools that you're using in the classroom and sharing those types of tools that you use. So the whole point of this was a sharing, best practices, integration. We're all going to kind of talk about it together. You guys have access to this. You can watch my cute little videos. Okay, here is an infographic that I really dislike about the SAMR model because it looks like it's a staircase and it looks like you're supposed to go up this staircase. Well, it's backwards anyway, because substitution is the first letter, right? So now you're going like down a staircase, and because we always assume that we have to climb, right? That you're looking at enhancing versus transforming. Let me show you a better visual of how this should look. It's a swimming pool that you are going to do laps through this pool of all these different ways that you're using technology. You might be hanging out in the shallow end where you can touch, and that's comfortable because you're making Google Docs and Google Forms, and it's making your life easier. If technology at this point isn't making your lessons function better for you, then reevaluate why you're using that technology. If you've turned a document into something that you're using online and that's not making it easier on you, then reevaluate if you just want to go back and hand out that piece of paper, because that actually might be the better function for that lesson. That sometimes we are using technology because it's available, but not because it's the best replacement or because it's the best way to give that lesson. Okay, so we are swimming all over this pool. And I'm going to tell you what each of these acronyms, or what the entire acronym, what each of the levels stands for. Okay, so you cannot live in the deep end. You cannot live in modification and redefinition. You cannot redefine your entire classroom to be so advanced technologically, you will burn out and you will drown. If you are trying to do everything with technology and you are trying to turn every lesson and you're trying to make everything redefined and making it harder on yourself. So technology should never be more difficult than what you were doing before as a teacher. You know your craft and you know what would be best for kids. Okay, so here's where we're going to get into. I wanted to, those are all like, here's the intro to all this stuff. Here's where I want to get us communicating with each other. On the Google site, so I gave you all a link to the Google site. Underneath my slideshow, there is something that says, what is the role of technology in your classroom? And there is a button that says responses. Please click the button that says responses. When you click that button, you should come up to a Padlet. I also tried to use technology in my presentation here that might be useful to you in your own classroom. So what I created was a Google site. You have access to be able to create Google sites in your own, within your own Google suite of tools. You have Google Sites as a thing. Then I gave you the link, and now I have things that are linked to that. Padlet is just like a bulletin board. So what I would like you to do on the Padlet is answer the question, what is the role of technology in your classroom? Does it serve as a replacement for paper documents? Does it enhance your lessons? If so, how? And are students discovering technology on their own, or do you as a teacher provide the applications? Are you telling them what resource to use? Are you allowing them to show you something new? So on the Padlet, in the bottom right corner, there's a plus sign. When you click the plus sign, there's a subject box, and then there's a write something beautiful. So the subject is, you can just put role of technology. and then write something that'll make it smaller text. So on the Google site that I gave you, the link was in the chat. Click responses. Bottom right corner, there is a plus sign. And then write something fantastic. And what you are considering is, what's the role of technology in your classroom? What's the point? I'm going to give everybody a minute to get there and put something up there. I like whoever said, I am happily paperless. Me too. Paper serves, it really does serve a purpose. I cannot say that I have erased paper completely from my classroom, but I do enjoy that I don't have mounds of it, especially as an English teacher, grading essays and things. Usually they show me new things. I like that. Nicole Cody. So I love your answer that you try to give them lots of options, but they stick to their comfort zone and they just make a Google slide. It is amazing when we ask kids to use technology, and I teach 11th and 12th grade, and I have kids who say, I don't know how, I'm not tech savvy. We have this assumption that because they've grown up with tech, that they automatically just know things. They know their phones, they know social media, they know these smart things because smartphones are developed for that purpose, that anybody can use it and anybody can access it. And, you know, young kids can even figure out how to click a pretty button and make a video. But some of these more advanced tools, when we ask them to create infographics and we ask them to use tools, I do find that students are less likely to use them because they're more difficult, because it requires a mouse and a keyboard and not just their thumbs. So I really appreciate that response, that I would love students to use more technology, but they are so hesitant to use something they're not familiar with, especially my lower classes. Letting them show you new things is amazing. I love when kids have, or they come up with just something I've never seen before on a program that I might already use. Replacing some of the paper pencil activities, it enhances the lessons. And of course, we're putting things up there because students need to have access to it. I love that I don't have to have a student come back after an absence and they need all of these worksheets that they hadn't gotten in person. and that I can just say, well, I can email them. Make sure that you look at the Canvas page. Here's a link to that assignment. Here is this, and they have access to all these things when they're not in the classroom. That is helping me be a better teacher and a more sane teacher. It's helping my sanity. And if technology is not helping your sanity, then asking for guidance, asking for assistance, training in something is definitely where we need to go. Web quests, use it for everything. Nearpod, and I like what somebody said about streamlining access. Yes, making sure that there is one place for them to have access to these activities. Enriching the curriculum, online activities. Some of my science teachers in the last session were saying that it provides much more access to videos and virtual lessons that they can go and they can see something that we wouldn't have normally seen in a textbook, that it's interactive. So absolutely. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of those. Okay, next what I'd like you to do is click here on the Jamboard. So if you scroll, if you're on the Google page, it's at the very bottom. You click here, and it is going to take you to this Jamboard right here. Again, I was trying to put tools that are easy to use. Oh, somebody asked in chat, can you see the name of the author of comments on your end since you were the Padlet creator? The thing with Padlet and when I use it in class is that I tell students to sign in, and they have to sign in using Google. That automatically puts their name on the comment. But if you don't sign in, it makes you anonymous. And I don't have access to seeing the name unless the person signs in. So I require that all my students sign into a Padlet just so I can see who said what. That is also the issue with Jamboard. So Jamboard also is anonymous, that you cannot see who creates what note card, or sticky note. So if you're using this for something where you actually want to take points for it, you just need to tell students that they need to put their name on their note card or their sticky note. Okay, so you're going to go to slide 2 or frame 2. So at the very top of the Jamboard, you're just going to click the next thing. And a lot of you are already good students. You saw on the on my presentation that there was another thing. So on frame 2, you're going to grab a check mark and just check mark all the tech tools that you use. I just want to visually see, and there should be plenty of check marks if you use more than one. Just keep grabbing check marks. And I just wanted everyone to visually see your fellow teachers, what tools we're actually using, what tech tools are out there, the names of them. If you checkmarked Audacity, if you're the person who checked Audacity, can you write in the chat what you use it for? Also, the one person who checkmarked Socrative. Sound design. What do you teach, Kevin? Theater. Awesome. So if you didn't know, Audacity is a free tool that you can use to, you can edit MP3s, you can edit, students can record themselves. So like if you wanted to make a podcast, a student could record a podcast. It's all free. Socrative is another place where you can have students do like small assessments, like quizzes. Okay, it looks like we have the big ones, right? That it seems like most of our group here are familiar with Nearpod and Flipgrid and Kami. What I'd like to say about Kami is if you were just using it as a taking paper documents to digital as maybe an annotation kind of thing, look further into Kami. There are so many other things that that program can do besides just moving it from a paper document to a digital document that students can type on, or a PDF that students can type on. There are lots of things that Kami can do. And if you've never heard of Kami before, I would absolutely look into that too. Again, kind of the purpose of this, and if we were in person, I would have done more sharing as to how we use these programs in your different disciplines. And it would have been great to have those cross-curricular conversations too, where I use this way. Oh, I could actually do that in, somebody in my first session was a science teacher and said they used Audacity to measure sound waves and used it that way. So very cool application for something, for a free tool. So, okay. And I just wanted to give you some names of things. So if you haven't ever seen the name of some of these tools, jot it down and maybe take a little look or ask around and see if anybody else uses them. So then you can just have some more tools in your pocket that if you've never seen a Nearpod before, if you've never seen a HyperDoc before, it's very much like a web quest. You have links to things on one document and students kind of self-pace through it. And it's almost, if you're familiar with making modules on Canvas, that's a way that you can use Canvas to make your own kind of HyperDoc that you're moving students through kind of a self-paced. And you've already used Padlet here with me, and you've used Jamboard here with me. So these are the ways that you can put these kinds of things together. Okay, the next thing that I'd like you to do is, what did I miss? So is there a tool that your fellow teachers need to know about? So on that next frame of the Jamboard, if I missed something on that previous one, I tried to pick the ones that were pretty popular among most teachers, or most teachers used things back on this slide. But if you really need on this Jamboard, grab another sticky note and throw up the sticky note of a tool that you want to like shout for people to use. GimKit, gaming, yeah. Is GimKit still free? Kahoot, definitely. So again, my whole purpose for some of these front-loading activities was to see other teachers recommending some tech tools. And if you've never heard of some of these things before, again, make a little note that teachers are using them. And if we would have done this in person, you could have actually made contact with that real person and said, how are you using this? can I share some resources with you? Anybody have anything else? Somebody in the chat said, look it. Class Kick. I just started looking into Class Kick, and I would love whoever put that up there to share with me how you're using it. So if you just want to throw me a quick message in the chat, let me know how you're using ClassLink or Class Kick. All right, hoping that everybody shared that wanted to share. What did I miss? Okay, so let's talk about SAMR. And then I'll give you some examples, and hopefully if I could get anybody who would want to say something to share how you might do this in your own classroom. So we know Bloom's taxonomy. We know that we have different levels, and sometimes you are sitting at remember. Sometimes you just need kids to recall, right? You just need them to recall information. And we all know that there are different levels, and it's perfectly fine to ask recall questions because sometimes you need that base knowledge before you can do something bigger, right? Sometimes you need to just create a Google document to ask questions before you can create this thing on this bigger web tool where students are creating some, beautiful infographic or something. So I want you to equate that to the SAMR model as well. Like there are levels of it that you can move between it. Sometimes you need to just make that document, and sometimes you're going to do virtual reality, and you're going to have a lesson that students, put on the virtual reality glasses and go on a field trip somewhere. And you are completely redefining what an activity looked like in your classroom before because we have the technology to do it now. So just keep that in mind. Nobody's going to ask you to live up here in Redefinition. All right, so substitution. Substitution is where you just, I've given the example several times already. You take a worksheet that students once had written on and you turn it into a Google Doc. And that is, there's no change in how they are using that activity. They are using it as you give questions, they answer questions. It's just now substituted on a computer. And we do a lot of this when we gave kids Chromebooks. But if that paper works still, just use it. Use the paper. It's okay. It really is. I know that last year we did a lot of computer stuff because we don't want to collect the paper and we don't want to touch papers and all of that. But if there is something that absolutely works better because kids can tangibly touch it, then this presentation by no means says you have to turn it into an online presentation. You have to turn it into a tech thing. I am not sitting here telling you that is what we are supposed to be doing. Okay. But this SAMR model is something that the tech people in your building are probably going to be mentioning quite a bit. It's just the new acronym. Everybody has to get it. We love acronyms, right? So the other thing is it makes your life easier. Does the piece of tech make your life easier? Are you using it because it makes something better? Or are you using it just because kids have computers now and it just makes sense, like because you think it should be on the computer? As long as it's making your life easier, go for it. Augmentation, the content is the same, but somehow it is enhanced. So this is where you're going to start like gamifying things. Like instead of doing a out loud where you just ask kids questions and they respond to review a test, you're going to Kahoot it or you're going to GimKit it. They're still recalling knowledge, but you have made it more engaging. Here's the thing about technology, that we often think of it as a disengaging thing. where students have disengaged, where we give them a computer, they sit in front of it, and they're not talking to anyone. They are alone trying to work on something. What I want to try to get across is that the technology that you're using should be more engaging. You have the ability to give comments and feedback. And if you didn't know that Canvas, you can give audio feedback and you can give audio comments, that's something you should look into, that it's going to make your life easier, especially if you're an English teacher who gives a lot of essays and then you're trying to respond to all the students and tell them what needs to be changed with their essay or with their writing. You can give audio comments. So those are the kinds of things that I'm engaging with students in a way that I couldn't do before, where I might not be able to sit down with every single student during class, but I can give an audio comment during my planning period and try to pull through all of those essays. So it's engaging students instead of using technology to disengage, where they're just working on something alone. So I think that's where being asked to give this presentation, saying that if we are using technology in a way that's helping us and being more engaging to students, and not just because we think we have to. And that teacher and student both share in the experience, that I can get a document from a student and I can write comments on it, or I can, share comments with them. They can share it with me. We both have access to the document in real time, that they're not turning it in to me. I'm taking it home 3 days later, I'm handing it back, kind of thing. Okay, I'm trying to be faster this time than I was at my first presentation. So I'm actually not like doing as much of that interactive stuff because I don't want to keep you too late, because I know everybody wants to go do their lunch thing. Modification is the redesign. So the content is delivered in a totally different design that students can even access each other at this point. So where you might just have a document shared between you and a student, now the document is shared with multiple students. Now they are building a community. They are collaborating as a class. They are sharing the same document. All of those things are part of this modification. You are modifying the assignment in some way. And the collaboration part is part of that. One of the other things, once you get up to the two higher levels, we have to give up control sometimes. And one of the questions that I asked was, are the students introducing the technology, or are you giving them what to do? So if you have something where you've designed a lesson on a Google slide and you have every student take the Google slide and they all do something on that, but you've created it for them, you've created the template for them, you're still in the substitution, because you've given them a template, you've given them something. But if you could you assign it on something like Canva, where they have unlimited opportunity to do what they want with it? So the modification and the redefinition are really that giving up control and taking a lesson or an assignment or an activity that you did before and allowing the students to create something, and that they are researching, developing, and using a piece of technology that maybe they have found. And for some students that doesn't work and you have to guide them somewhere. So you might suggest, use this piece of technology, use this application. But the teacher and student, again, both share in the experience. Then redefinition, the one example that I like to give for this one is that virtual reality. That redefinition is, you can do something, think of a lesson that you've done, and if you're a veteran teacher, maybe you've done it for the last 10 years. But think about teaching 10 years ago. Think about where we were with technology 10 years ago. Is that lesson something that you can completely redefine because you didn't even have the technology? You didn't even have that thing. It didn't even exist 10 years ago, but you can use it now because it does exist. And now that lesson, so like science teachers and social studies teachers being able to have the videos and have the virtual reality and have those things that students can see, like the inside of a body, because they were never able to do that before. They can Skype or Zoom with someone in a medical field and actually watch an autopsy virtually happen in real time and ask real-time questions. We never had that before. Like, we didn't have that technology. So that's where redefinition sits. You cannot live there for all of your classes, for all of your lessons. It's that pool image that you can swim back and forth, and sometimes you got to stand and give yourself a break in the shallow end. And kids need that break as well. You can't tread water and swim in the deep end the entire time. So that's where this goes. So I would ask for ideas, and we would do some more collaborating, and we would do some more sharing, but I'm just going to try to fly through this again. I wish I had 2 hours to have more examples and to be able to look at this a little deeper. But really, this was like an introduction and just trying to give you names of some new web applications that you might want to use, and then try to get you out of here. Okay, so a couple of examples, and I'm going to show you 2 different. How much time do I have? I'm going to try to take just 5 more minutes. So I'm going to show you 2 examples. So for substitution augmentation, so something that all of you could actually implement would be instead of a paper hall pass. So this isn't related to curriculum. This is just related to what we do with kids. Taking a paper hall pass and turning it into a Google form and using a QR code. So you have access to this because this is still my Google slideshow, or this is my Google site. This is my Google website. So this slideshow that I'm using, all these links are clickable for you too. So when I click here, this is an example, or it goes through how I use a Google form for my hall pass. So students fill out the form, they click the QR code, they fill out the form, it goes directly to my Google Sheet, and I have that open as a tab, and it timestamps it, and I can see when students have left the room throughout the entire day. I can see what time they left the room and throughout the day. If I recognize that a student's been gone, I see on the timestamp that they left 10 minutes ago, then I'm going to send out an all call, like, to go find that student. But this is a way that I have used technology to make my life a little more streamlined. So I put up a QR code by the door, or I link it into my Canvas as well. And so students can just fill out that form, and it automatically generates on my Google Sheet, and I have a hall pass ready to go. And I know exactly, they don't have to sign anything. They don't have to touch any paper or anything like that. And they don't have to sign in and out. It's just a digital way. So that's something not curriculum related that you could potentially use, using that tech to just substitute. I'm substituting a paper hall pass or a sign out sheet using technology. Let me show you. So redefinition. So let me explain just a quick redefinition. So I have speech classes that last year, we, instead of, not instead of, but in addition to giving some of the speeches that we did in class, I had them do an activity where they were putting together the Panther News. Now, this wasn't just the announcements for the school, but the students were creating their own, they were being their own journalist, and they were making up their own stories and coming up with their own ideas, going out and recording and talking to people, and then coming back and collaborating. The entire class put all their stories together to create one finished product. So without the use of their own phones and video and some of these other pieces of technology, I couldn't have done this before in a speech class in previous years, right? That students have more advanced phones. They are able to go out and record these things. They can then share those things with me through advanced technology. We can have a shared Google Drive. Those kinds of things were never possible until we had these pieces of technology. So I have redefined how I'm giving this journalist activity to my speech kids. So they've created the Panther News, and they were able to, like you can see here, they went out and they interviewed one of the assistant principals, and then they came back in view, and then they went back out. Some of them had images that went along. So that is a redefinition of an assignment that would be normally like journalism. We would just give a speech. We turned it into something technologically advanced. So I have other examples for you, but I need to be done in 1 minute. So if you come to this website, you bookmark it, I'm going to leave it up. It is a resource that is living there, available for you. Wish we could have been together in person. I had other assessment examples to show you. And ask yourself often, is it making feedback easier? Does it enhance what I'm teaching? And does it serve a purpose? Is there a purpose why I'm using this piece of technology? Other than, well, the kids have it, I'm just going to use it, right? I'm so sorry that seemed like a fly through type of presentation. But if you have any questions, I would recommend finding the Shield agent in your building. Every building has one, and they should know more about instructional technology. So things to make your lessons better and ways to integrate technology into your classroom. And as always, feel free to contact me if you'd like. And you have access to this. You have access to my extras. I will figure out why Canva is no longer offering premium. And I hope all of you have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for joining me. Go eat lunch and have fun on Monday when kids come back. You guys are awesome.